you must be a Snoopy fan.
Can you tell?
I couldn't tell. Something just something about I just felt it. I don't know. I was feeling Snoopy. So tell me, what's the origin of Test Teams? I just it's your company. You founded it. How did that name come about?
So do you know the story?
I don't. I'm interested.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I had been with a company prior to Test Team that I had been with for 15 years that I was a part owner at. And I really just was ready to get out and do something a little bit different. And I had gone into the BC space anyway. So I had a Italian Greyhound whose name was Contessa. And she had passed away, I think 2 years before I used her name, basically. But she was like my little angel. She's the best. She was the best. Now I got another one that's laying behind me. I think she's laying behind me. Yeah, she's out behind me. Her successor behind me there. But she was my first. So she's my first Italian. And it was, I decided to do this. Steve Endo and I actually had a conversation I told him December 3rd, we were sitting in San Diego at a conference and I knew I needed to make that change. So decided to make that change and was like, what do I name this company? I have no idea. And I was going through Loveland, Colorado, driving because we were going skiing. And somebody said, why not? Oh, I was like, oh, this is where Tess was from. And they were like, why don't you call it Test Team? And so I was like, oh, that's not a bad idea. So most people, if you look at my logo, the logo is actually a picture of her. It's her head.
Okay.
So a lot of people look at it and they're like, is it a world? And I'm like, well, kind of. Yeah, it is a little bit. So yeah.
Inside of that head was a whole world going on.
It was. Yeah. So that's where Test Team came from. And
that's cool.
Since she was kind of my, like I said, my person to make me a better person, I feel like, right?
Yeah.
I created Test Team Cares, which I think you've seen. And so Test Team Cares, we started, this is our 4th year, which I cannot believe that already. We do a women's shelter and the homeless shelter here in Salt Lake. And that came about from some friends getting rid of some mattresses. So my girlfriend was replacing mattresses on her pull-out couches because they'd bought a condo here. And, I was like, nobody's going to take these. You can't just take them to Goodwill or whatever. Yeah. And so we shoved them in the back of my SUV. So 3 of these big mattresses in my SUV. And I think somebody was actually sitting on one in the back. It was quite funny. And I said, let's just go to Tent Village downtown. And so we're driving and we get there and, there's tents all over in Salt Lake. And everybody's like, I'm terrified. I'm not getting out of the car. The 2 other ladies with me. And I was like, you know what? They're not going to hurt us, right? It's fine.
And this was right in pandemic times. Like, he's about 4 years ago. This would have been
this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we pulled up and I got out and just walked up to one of the homeless guys and said, hey, does anybody want mattresses? And they absolutely were like, yes, and started coming out, and I said, well, they're in the back of the car. So we opened the back of the car and they just started pulling the mattresses out.
Nice.
And I always keep blankets and stuff like that in my car. And they were like, can we have these blankets too? And I'm just like, yeah, you can have whatever. So I just started trucking, scarves, hats, blankets out of my car and just gave it to them. And we left that with all of us sitting there, just kind of like a blank look going, wow, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So that's how Test Team Cares came about too. And one of the very cool things that Doug did is the first year we did Test Team Cares, I don't know if you knew this, we were in, I believe, San Diego. I think that's where the first one was. And there wasn't a lot of people that showed up that year. So they had a lot of backpacks left over. So the Cotopax backpacks with all the colors on them. And
Yep.
so we had gone out with Jake and John that night. We were just kind of sitting around, and somebody said, "Hey, Tanya's doing this thing where they're giving away, blankets and all these different things." And we had just bought some kind of bags to put them in, and they said, "Oh, we have like 200 backpacks," and
Yeah.
so they shipped them to us. So I get home and I have like these huge boxes of all these backpacks. So that was super cool. They did that. And it's really the first year I think I cried the whole time I went to the shelter because it
Uh,
was really cool. Because we bake cookies and do all that kind of stuff for them. And just kind of just talk to them for a couple of hours. But it's really kind of cool that we will still get we'll see
yep.
those backpacks. So it's
That is
interesting.
cool.
I love to see that. And that was kind of my dream for that, was just to be able to see that logo, kind of around helping the city of Salt Lake.
This maybe, I mean, you've done such a great job putting yourself out there volunteering. I wanted to talk about that and just hear from you, and like what's that motivation? Like obviously, what drives you to kind of find these opportunities? You do, team cares. We're going to talk about your stuff in El Salvador. So I just wanted to get some feedback on what kind of motivates you to do this, consistently.
My mother. Really, honestly, my mom is pretty cool, and
Yeah.
she volunteers all the time. So I honestly think a lot of that came from her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she still, like I said, she still does everything all the time for other people, and so she just kind of taught me to kind of have that characteristic of, I feel like I'm very lucky in life.
Yeah.
I don't have the same kind of, homelessness. And yeah, when we talk about El Salvador, I mean, that's just, some of that is just, it is heart-wrenching, right? It's, you just realize how much you really have, especially being
Yeah.
in the US. And I think a lot of people take that for granted. So I definitely try really hard not to do that.
I think
But I
that's, I
still
mean,
like my nice hotels.
I think, yeah, and that's okay. I think there's a balance. Like I feel the same way. It's like I have a lot of blessing in my life, and some of it's hard work. I mean, you work hard, so some of this is the benefit of what you do. But we also started at a different level than a lot of people. I inherited a situation where I was able to do things and get places. And I do think I feel that way. I feel like it's it's just as a duty for me to give back.
Yep.
In certain ways. So I look for these opportunities where I can to give back in ways where I have either a personal connection or can find value in what I'm doing. So
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I think, in my opinion, I don't do any of that for any kind of recognition. I just do it because people need help. I mean,
yeah,
honestly, really, it's, a lot of times, especially with the El Salvador project, I tell Steve all the time, I feel like I'm not, I see how much he does. It is amazing what he is doing down there, even more so than I do. And I do a lot of the accounting on the background, so I tease him a lot when I realize that I say, Steve, I feel like I'm not doing anything because I see what he does. And then I sit there and spend, an entire Saturday working on the accounting, and I tell him, okay, now I understand what I'm doing for this project.
So you're in between travels.
I got back last night.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
I'm tired.
carving out the space. Hopefully it's just an easy conversation. Take your mind off of whatever else is businessy in the world.
Yes,
But
and
I appreciate you carving out the space.
Yeah, no, I love it. I did do some notes for myself today too, which I usually don't do. I'm usually just kind of like on the fly, go with it on the fly. But then I was like, there's a lot. I mean, I have like a whole page over here. of stuff because I was kind of like, oh, let me think about these things really. So
Yeah, and
but
luckily for you, I tend to go off the fly too, but like I get used to people like, most people needed topics. Like, what are we going to talk about? And, a lot of times podcasts are just, hey, you get out, you start talking and see where it flows. And, it's okay to have some guardrails, but try not to make it too strict or, structured. Yeah. Just kind of keep it on the down low.
Yeah, I
But so
love
I
it.
just got used to having some topics out there, for us to kind of think about. Are you headed right back out travel wise?
I leave for Denver on Monday afternoon. We have a customer event. So we have a customer event on Monday.
Nice.
And so we are going to dinner on Monday night, and then we're doing our event Tuesday, and then we leave Tuesday afternoon. And I'm headed to Texas after that.
If you had time, I would say let's get together. But this feels like one of those tight trips where
it might be a tight trip. I know we're trying to do that, and I have to see. I don't know what time we actually get there. It might be too close.
Yeah. Obviously, no pressure at all. But if it happened to work out, let me know. I'm trying to think of I'm committing myself, and I might have stuff going on Monday and Tuesday too. I'm traveling the end of the week, but for personal. But cool.
Where are you headed?
You do a lot of travel, right? I'm headed to Richmond.
Okay.
Virginia. My parents are out there. Actually, I'll be in Northern Virginia mostly, but then I popped down to Richmond too. But I grew up in that area.
Oh, nice. I just got back from Charlotte last night. That's where I was hanging out.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's pretty my one of my buddies, his dad retired there. So they have a little house on one of the lakes out in that area. So we'll go out and hang out every once in a while.
Oh, I was trying to think of what lakes are out there, but
Lake Anna is close by. I don't know if that's the one. There's definitely Lake Anna out there. I mean, I should know more about the geography in the state I grew up in, but there's probably 1,000 lakes, and I don't know all of them. I know the ones I fished in close by my house.
Yeah.
There's a place out there, kind of close to Charlotte, called Crozet. They have the best pizza. If you're out there, at any regularity, you might want to try Crozet's pizza, Crozet pizza.
I'll have to ask that question. Yeah, we tried a new Argentinian Spain restaurant that no one had tried. I kind of just went on TripAdvisor, and somebody was like, "Oh, this is so real. This is really good." It was really good. They had great little just like craft cocktails, which I always love trying. Different kinds of things like that. So it was good. It was Miko. So it was downtown in a really beautiful, like an old hotel.
Yeah, downtown Charlotte's pretty too. I was driving through, and just on a chance, we just stopped at a restaurant. It was a little hole-in-the-wall barbecue, but it was the best. I mean, great service, great food, so a lot to look at there.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely.
We were talking about travel, and I think you asked me, we had just been in Chicago together for a fun retreat with about 40 folks, meetup leaders. With Doug, and that was a blast. Had a great time connecting with everybody, and just a lot of energy. And I went to see my folks after that, so I flew from Denver to Chicago, from Chicago to DC, drove to Richmond, back to DC, flew to Toronto, and then back to Denver. And so it was about 2 weeks I was out of pocket, but
that's hard.
It's like I said, you do a lot of travel, so I feel like you get those stretches where it's like I don't mind travel, and I don't take a lot to rebuild my energy for events, but 2 week stretch, I guess it starts getting. I mean, I wasn't depleted, but it was nice to be home and go
yes,
like Avalera,
yes, exactly.
That feeling of just it's nice to not have to think a little bit for a minute and just chill.
Yeah. So as I was going through that, I was trying to think, because, we were talking about how, like what's that fun fact? And I think I did that. I had hit 60 countries this year.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And so it was funny because as I was going through that, I was listing out, I was like, I don't even know how, because the guy next to me said, well, how many did you do this year? And I thought, I don't know. and I did a lot of repeats this year, but I went back and looked, and I actually hit 10 countries this year.
Wow. So 10 new countries?
Not 10 new. No, not 10 new, but 10.
Just 10 total. Yeah, that's so impressive.
Total. Yeah, I think that I hit four new this year. So so I'm planning next year already. It's, like, okay, I got to slow down a little bit.
Have you been to every state at this point, or is there
I
a state you haven't been to?
have. Nope, I hit
Yeah.
all 50 states probably about 6 years ago. My girlfriend and I, Maine was my last state, which was kind of interesting. So we went and did a run
Yeah.
in
Okay.
Maine.
That's fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
still haven't hit all the states. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I traveled a lot for work for the last 20 years, so I pretty much have worked in probably almost every state.
Yeah.
So
Right
yeah,
on. Yep.
fun
Nope.
stuff.
I like to get out and see new cities and new states. So that's definitely a fun thing. Something I like about, the last part of my, early on, I only traveled for like, actually most of the like work travel I did was for community events. Like I went to Summit and some other whatever event was happening, just a few events at the time. And then working for Ellipse as a partner, I started traveling a lot more for community events. And now with Doug,
Nice.
I'll be traveling probably even a little bit more, probably a couple times a month here or there, just, getting out to, and I think some international. So I'm kind of excited to get some
Yes.
more. Like I've got England and Ireland, and then like Caribbean, like Mexico, and but nothing in Canada now, but nothing exotic in Europe yet. So I'm excited to get out and do a little
Oh.
more international travel.
Well, I was talking to Steve about Africa while we were in El Salvador with we just did our company retreat. I don't know if I think I was leaving, so I left Chicago and went to El Salvador for our company retreat. That's why I
Yeah.
kind of had to miss that last day. So yeah, we were talking about hopefully joining the Africa crew next year. I think in June or July.
Yeah, it looks like there's gonna be a regional in Ghana or Kenya. That's gonna be exciting. I mean, this
Yes.
see this growth internationally. Since you mentioned it, talk about this other venture in El Salvador. It's another company that's out there, uplifting and promoting people into better careers and better life paths. So
Yes. So Steve and I, when we started, we actually have a company called Blue Dragonfly, which is the development side. So that is where we house all the developments. So he and I own that 50-50. And he had an idea to go to El Salvador because he loves that country. And he was going to just take a week and train some people. And so he was there last November. And I happened to come in a couple of days later, and he had met some people, and it just kind of blew up a little bit. And, we were hanging out in a pool. We've decided that's our last day. We hang out in the pool and
okay.
brainstorm. We have a computer and everything, so it's quite
Conduct
funny.
business. I love it. Yeah.
Yes. And so we were hanging out in the pool, just kind of dreaming this up. And he has absolutely 100% ran with that. And I've been kind of on his support side, kind of helping that team. So it is, so it's the ERP Center of Excellence that we have done. We now have 5 candidates. One person actually works for Test Team. She came out of that. She actually lives in Mexico City. But yeah, so we have 5 candidates. 2 are going to be full BC support, implementation, application type people. Power Automate, developer, AL developer, and one person's kind of doing all the telemetry and monitoring.
Cool.
So it's kind of cool. Yeah, we, like I said, we spent 3 days down there with them and visiting that town. So it's pretty exciting. They're kind of fully, they're amazing. They are all training. They're training, cross-training between each other. And
Nice.
so they are some of the hardest workers I have ever met, and they're really taking charge of that. And we're just basically helping them. They're leading a new thing down there too. I think it's next Monday. Steve said they're doing kind of like doing a toy giveaway to one of the areas down there for kids that basically don't have anything. So that's kind of cool too. And so we're kicking that off. We have our first partner starting January 1. So we started that 6 months ago, doing all the training with them.
Yeah.
So January 1st, we are fully kicking it off with the support desk. So we'll have a fully functioning support desk.
And so this is just so I understand, it's not a training organization, even though you're training these folks to learn a skill, but it is actually a company. You're bringing candidates in, they work for ERP COE, and they will be supporting BC and supporting other aspects of technology.
Right. So yeah, what we're trying to do is like partners that I've worked with over the years, if they're looking for a support desk, is these people are going to be a fully trained support desk, frontline support. So they'll be, monitoring everything, doing all of that, just basically everything for that support desk. And then we'll be expanding that also. Yeah. So like I said, it's kind of cool. It's something I've done for a lot of years, kind of just sitting behind other partners, but it will hopefully help partners out, because I know, the support desk out there sometimes are a little hard to, get help from. And like I said, these people are really trying to learn and doing an amazing job.
Oh, it's the immense amount of talent outside of the United States.
Yep.
It's not just, I mean, working at Ellipse was interesting because it was always a battle and talking to people. And when I would say, oh, we've got an office, it's a full development office in Moldova. So it's over there next to Ukraine. And I know people I worked with, they felt the immediate need to explain, oh, it's not, it's not an offshore, it's not this, it's not that, just because of this onus around resources outside of the States. These folks in Moldova they've been working in AX, literally AX since, its inception. They're the smartest people I know doing development that I've worked with. And so getting these resources, and they're passionate and they're hungry, like you said, this is an opportunity, and they it's just different. And I mean, they take it and they grab it and run.
They do.
Working with some folks at TechFluent, if you've heard of TechFluent out there. Yeah. So I'm leading the F&O cohort. There's PowerPoint, Power BI, or Power Platform, Power BI. And yeah, they dig right in. They're excited to learn everything and anything you give them. So
they are. And it's quite interesting. I don't know if you had this side of same issue. We had some, they're bilingual. So they all, actually, two of them were actually English teachers and have English degrees. So, fully, So it's kind of cool. Steve's been helping out on an English Academy. So he's been sponsoring one person a month for English Academy down there. And so some of these people had gone through that too, but obviously it's pretty exciting, where we really did not expect it to go to where it is today. We were not expecting that at all, but we're just kind of going with it and seeing where it takes us.
No, that's really cool. That kind of impact. I mean, it's generational. Like that's why I love, this kind of give back. It's just, the other stuff you're doing is cool too. It's just kind of, it can be temporary, a blanket or a mattress, they get lost, they dissolve, whatever, but working with somebody up, giving them a skill set, helping them, get confidence is just another level, which is just an awesome place to be.
Yes. That Steve and I were talking about that a lot too. It's like this generation, right? They're all in their early 20s. And so essentially this is kind of changing their life. Yeah. Right. It's giving them a purpose. It's giving them a job. And like you said, they're just running with it. And it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So very cool. I love it.
Yep. And it's just another great part of being in a broader community. I mean, how did you meet Steve? Were you guys working together? I mean, I just know so many people like you, when I see you out, you're with, with Shannon, you're with just all these, relationships you've made in the community. Were they all made through this Dynamics community? Or
they were, they actually, yes. Yep. And so, that was one of the things I think one of the questions is, in my opinion on this community has just been, I've done it for 25 years. Steve and I've known each other for probably more than 15 years. So we met
Mhm.
in the Dynamics GP space.
Mhm.
He's the go-to integration guy and has been for 20 years. And so that's how we met, and we just became friends. And like I said, one day we were sitting there and just thought we should go into business together. And
Okay.
then, I don't know, 6 months later, I called him and said, "Hey, were you serious about that?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm serious about that." And now it's been 4 years.
Awesome. I've
Yeah.
come close a couple of times with a friend or two. It just hasn't
Mhm.
worked out, but it's cool when you strike a relationship like that where the safety net feels right. Like he's like, you know what,
Right.
I'm gonna go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
It feels like we can support each other. Or, we're on the exact wavelength we need to be to support each other, and
Yes.
make something happen,
Well, Steve and I we're very different.
which is perfect.
So I'm, kind of the outgoing person, although he is extremely outgoing. He would never say that, right? But he is extremely outgoing, but he's also the techie nerdy
Mhm.
developer, and I'm the implementation accounting brain of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we complement each other very well. It's kind of funny because, you're saying Shannon, we did the BC Bash this year.
Hmm.
And that came out of us hanging out in Portugal going, we need to do this. And I told Steve, hey, by the way, you just need to come here, and you have to show up, and you have to be here for this party. And he's just like, what? I have to go to a party? He's like, I don't want to do this. This is your gig.
Yeah.
And I got him there, and he started seeing everything and what we had accomplished with that party, which was super cool.
Yeah. It was a
And
great
he
party.
started looking around going, this is cool. He's like, this is great. I like this. So
Yeah. The
yeah.
next night, Ellipse had I had helped them plan this before I moved over to Doug, but they wanted to
Mhm.
do a big bash as well. They had done some smaller parties, here and there, some smaller, just,
Mhm.
client invite only, prospect only kind of things. But they wanted to have like a community party, just put it out there. And so we partnered with some BC folks, Rob Del
Mhm.
Prado, and some marketing folks with
Yes.
Monica Hoyer and Influence and NetStock, and just kind of brought in a few different partners from around the
Yep.
channel, and just to have, and very similarly, Mikhail is not, he's the owner at Ellipse. He's not really a big party guy, but
Mhm.
it was just fun to watch him in amazement as 300 people crowded this, is at capacity in this little,
It
80s
was
bar.
fun. It
Yeah.
was fun. I had a
That,
blast.
yeah, just,
Yeah.
just him looking around going, wow, we did this. This is, this is amazing. This many people coming together for community.
Yes. And that's one thing that, that community is, in my opinion, I mean, it's just priceless. It really is. You know, and the one thing that I do like about the Doug, I like the size of Doug right now, and I know I know we want it to get bigger and grow and everything, but I just feel like when you walk down the hallway there, you see people, and you can go down to the lobby bar, everybody's kind of in the same place. And
Yeah.
it just feels like, you can walk up to anybody and start talking to somebody.
Yep.
And I mean, I sit down at lunch tables and, meet people, or, you go to a party and you just start talking to somebody, and, you end up, meeting basically new friends.
Yep.
So,
I'm fighting tooth and nail. Not that it's a hard fight. I'll say this.
yeah.
Everybody understands it, but there's a point where you do want to grow and keep, finding new friends to, to bring into a community. But
Mhm.
when you do that, obviously your events grow, but I
Yeah.
think there's ways to keep them intimate still. And so that we're constantly looking, like that's, my, like a number one lens I have on when we're going through these exercises of putting events together is how do we keep this close-knit, tight, feeling at events when you're growing into the thousands, and it is harder to walk down the hall and grab a moment with somebody because it's just too many people, but
Right.
I think we can do it. I think there's an ability to make it happen. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see how it evolves, but some of it's, just the vibe, and like you said, people are open to it. Like you're sitting down and doing it, and I think just the type of folks that show up to these events are more and more becoming that, or understanding that value out of it.
Yes.
Getting back that, compared to like when I started going to them, a while ago, I didn't see the close knit relationships as much as I do now. Like I'm really noticing like folks that have, really bonded in ways past like just dynamics. So.
Right. Yep. And what's really cool is we all, if I ever need help with something or I have a question, we have the MVP chat that we do a lot. But there's also, I'll email. I'll just put an email chain out to, 5 or 6 different people, and everybody's always willing to help.
Yeah.
And, our email addresses are pretty much publicized everywhere. So we're not hard to find.
Yeah.
And, I still have people email me and they're just like, hey, I saw your, whatever fixed asset thing on YouTube. Can you answer this question for me? Yes, we can. We're not billing you. We're not doing anything. It's just, I'll answer those questions. And I think most of our community does that.
I love that. That's the fun part for me personally. That's what it's like being there. I was up in Canada and this was a CEBC crowd, folks. Yeah, I'm an F&O person, so I came out of the F&O space. It's been fun being able to pull back all the curtains to every product, so I can get to know more of the community in a fun way. And a gentleman came up and said, "Hey, I just wanted to ask you, do you know anybody that has experience in Canada with Continia software? We're getting ready to install Continia software, and we have a great partner, but I really want to talk to a partner that's done this in Canada." And I said, "Yeah, I know a gentleman who works for Continia. Let me just give him a call real quick and see who he would recommend or what he has to say." So I called up Mark Rhodes, and I said, "Hey, do you know anybody?" He's like, "Yeah, I know a couple people. They're probably like right next to you in Canada right now at this event." He's like, "Go find this guy." And so sure enough, that guy was there. And so it made this connection within a few minutes.
That's awesome.
And the smiles on both people. It's like, the partner was really, excited, obviously, but the user was like just amazed, because this is the first in-person event in Canada for a community like this for a long time. And so this person had never been to an event like this before. So just for him to kind of realize, hopefully that was the spark moment for him to want to come back to every event now. It's like, wow, this is the kind of stuff that goes on here. I'm networking with these folks. I'm getting this kind of information. I'm making these kind of connections. Hopefully that's the kind of spark that carries forward.
Yes. And I hope you guys will come to Salt Lake. I would love to do a regional in Salt Lake too.
I would love to get back to that. I was in Park City this year. And so I flew into Salt Lake and then drove to Park City for an Explorlogics event. They have held an annual user conference for their folks every other year or so. It just got back from pandemic, so it'd been dormant for a number of years. But I just happened to get an invite, and so got to spend a couple of days at the Henrik Stein. Is that right?
Yes.
Steinson?
Yep. Eric Stein.
Yes. Lodge. Yeah.
Stein Erickson Lodge, actually.
Yeah. So I know I'm killing the name, but it was beautiful. I mean, it was perfect weather and beautiful blue skies, and had a blast. I drove around Salt Lake too, by the way. I usually, if I've got time, I will drive around and take pictures. I was up around the big whale. If you've seen that big colorful whale. There's a big statue. I couldn't tell you where, but I went there. I went to another park that was just a little teeny park with little art inside of it that was kind of fun. So I usually try to find the weird things that nobody goes. So I did drive by the Tabernacle just for fun.
Yeah.
It was being
and the Capitol building.
Yeah. I didn't go in. It was just I kind of drove by it.
Well, if you're in Park City again, I'm in Park City.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I stopped by the Olympic stuff, like a couple of different Olympic, pieces and stuff. So I did stop by there too.
Which will be another one coming up in a few years. So.
I know they're dusting all that stuff off now.
They will
build
be.
New things. Yeah.
Yeah, my office actually, the Olympic, where the thing is literally right next to my office. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'd stopped right over there. I had to ship something back for our lips, and I was in a shopping center right across from that Olympic ski jump or whatever that's right there. So.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and you mentioned GP. Do you still work in GP?
I do a little bit in GP, but it's very, very rare. Usually if somebody has a question about project accounting or getting data out of GP, I do a lot of GP to BC migrations. So that's pretty much the only time I'm in GP now.
And do you think it's settled down? I mean, there was obviously it's been kind of foretold for a couple of years, but then with the announcement earlier this year that there was a true now end date, and there was some, so a hullabaloo right away, but
Yeah.
it feels like they got quiet, and what's behind the scenes? Are people scrambling? Are they getting ready? Is it kind of status quo?
We've been taking people off of GP now it'll be going on 8 years. So, I think we've just been slow and steady. We've been trying to reach out to customers. I work with other partners, so
Yeah.
we've been reaching out to, those customers. We started with kind of the low hanging fruit, originally. And, as as BC has changed also, obviously it's very different than it was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So, now that, it's getting, some of I call it's getting GPNized almost a little bit. There's a lot of GP functionality that's coming into it, which is great because, some of those little things, statistical accounts, allocations, things like that, which people are, take advantage or take, they take for granted, I should say, in GP, not having it in BC, it was really something that was needed. So I think as those little features are getting put into BC, it's really helping that community know, okay, now I'm able to move over there.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? It is going to have an end of life. It'll probably be end of life even longer than that. Obviously, there will.
Always.
I mean, look at Solomon; it's been around forever.
I know.
But the nice thing about it is, now we can move them over. It can be a slow. We're not rushing. And I don't think it'll ever be a big rush. But yes, we're trying to get everybody over to that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and so we don't lose them to other products too.
I think that's the concern too, is that possibly
the
they move on to other products. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's funny because there's so many people over the last 7 years who are like, oh, you went to the dark side, were kind of making fun of me in the very beginning for being on the BC space. Now I'm starting to see them LinkedIn posting things like, oh, you need to move to BC. And I'm like, yeah, now who's going to the dark over here? Now who's going to the dark side, right?
Right. Just flip sides. Now the dark side, anybody staying on GP is the dark side. It's like,
yeah, it's kind of funny. So yeah, exactly.
Funny.
So,
I've got, just to wrap up.
Yes.
Just to wrap up, unless anything else we missed on community or BC or anything you want to talk about that you had to get out of your mind, anything that has to pop out.
The only other thing that we are going to need help with on the El Salvador project is we want to do a Latin America user group.
Yeah.
So we've talked about that. I think we have enough people now down there. So I think Steve has said there is no user group at all in Latin America. So we would love to get that started down there. I'm going to we'll let that team run with that because I'm actually on the Salt Lake user group. And so I got a lot on my plate, which we're all going to Top Golf. Finally, we're getting out of the office. We're going to Top Golf in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I'm the worst now that I have the ability to be, I want to travel to every event, but I would certainly, never stop traveling as many events as there are out in our community now. But yeah, that looks like it'll be a blast. We did a Top Golf here in Colorado. Everybody loves whacking a golf ball, even if you don't do it regularly. It's just fun.
Yes. Yeah, it should be fun. And yeah, we've been actually teaming up, and I think I said this when we were in Chicago, we were teaming up with the like the old SharePoint Saturdays group, the old, the other, we've tried to reach out with them so we can kind of make our team, our user group, bigger, and grow basically a little bit within that community. So
and like we talked about in Chicago, if you I don't know if you were there or not, but a lot of cross product talk that we've been looking at locally, bringing in more Microsoft Stack conversations. So it's not just Dynamics. It's like we can talk about Teams integration, we can talk about SharePoint, we can talk about all the other things that most of these companies are using, and we'll have value out of it. It's not, there's no harm in stepping outside of the normal, like, oh, it's another supply chain, or it's another, cost accounting thing or whatever, that, broaden it out, get exciting.
Yes. Our actually, when we started this, gosh, it's probably been 1.5 years ago now. We have never had just one product, and actually, we named ours I think the Microsoft 365
Oh, cool.
user group is what we named ours. So we have never just had a BC. One of my favorites was we did a BC. Why would you choose F&O over BC or BC over F&O? And
Timeless question I get all the time. Like, what's the
Yes.
difference? Why would you choose it? Yeah, it's a great, piece of education.
Yeah, so we always try to incorporate those things. And one of the things that I said too is I don't care if I have to listen to a CE conversation or a Teams conversation or even a development conversation. I'm learning something while I'm sitting there doing that. Like I said,
Yeah.
we try to mix it up a lot so that you'll hear something that you can take away from that. So
Yep.
I do love that about our group here.
I totally agree. It took me a
yeah.
while to get my head around it because with the
is.
meetup platform, you're lumped in with, depending on how they're set up. We're set up as one big group, so it's BC,
Yes.
CE, GP,
Yep.
and F&O, and we've had a lot of combined events where we find shared content and or maybe a little shared, maybe split apart if we need to. But yeah, it's fun to find, like I said, I find value in all that too. So I appreciate that mindset. And I think if you, as a leader, if you kind of set that tone too, people kind of gravitate towards like, yeah, why wouldn't I want to come listen to some smart person talk about a fun thing that I don't know about?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I do like that about our group. It's really nice.
So you must be a Snoopy fan.
Can you tell?
I couldn't tell. Something just something about I just felt it. I don't know. I was feeling Snoopy. I also love me some Snoopy. You can't see it, but in my Christmas tree, I've got an ornament that I had when I was a kid. It's Snoopy with a Davy Crockett hat on. It's a ceramic little Christmas ornament that I got probably when I was 9 or 10 that I still have and hang it on my little Charlie Brown tree. So kind of
Nice.
a meta moment for Charlie and Snoopy and the gang.
Very cool. Yeah, I have, which you can see this side does have a little bit of Snoopy on it, but the other side over here is completely Snoopy. Yeah. People buy, and I honestly have not bought. The only thing I bought was the whole crew up there because I found the crew at like a Smith's marketplace.
Okay.
And so yeah, I bought the crew, but other than that, I haven't bought any of that stuff.
That's the way it works when you tell somebody, that gets out in the universe that, gosh, I really love Snoopy, or I like chickens, or whatever it is in your life, that all of a sudden, every Christmas, birthday, gift opportunity, like my mom's house is full of chickens because one time she said, I kind of like chickens. And then all of a sudden she's got ceramic chickens and chicken, placemats and, chicken.
Yeah. I try to tell people, I'm like, okay, calm down with the Snoopy stuff. Okay. Like my whole
house. I love
house.
me some Snoopy, but I don't need another like a shed for just Snoopy, paraphernalia. And
the sweater was actually given to me also. So I was like, okay, I might as well do it today.
He's so iconic though. I love that right behind you, the old, like the early Snoopy cartoons are so cute. Like the little, like baby Snoopy.
Yep.
And baby, like the first drawings that Charles Schultz was doing to me are my favorite. Like you don't see them out much, but those early cartoon panels are just so cute.
So I need to get something to put on those so that they are not shiny. Which I haven't done yet. I need to do that. But Alyssa actually found these at a garage sale. A lady was selling them.
Wow. Are they like just posters or what are they?
They're newspaper. So they're from the St. Louis. We grew up in St. Louis. So they're from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch from, I think, 1968.
Yeah. They look like about that era.
Yeah, so 1968, these came out of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. So those are pretty cool.
That's kind of the cool thing about like missing out on newspapers now. I mean, they're still out there and everything, but it's not quite the same. Like we get all this stuff digitally, but it's kind of fun getting a newspaper that had something like that, a poster that you could hear about. It was going to be out Sunday edition. You better be watching every Sunday for the next month. It's going to be Snoopy, and you could cut them out or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, so those are pretty cool. I like those. So I need to get something so they're not so shiny behind me, but
yeah, they're definitely.
I do love them. Very cool. I love them.
thank you so much, Tanya, for taking your time. I appreciate getting to know you a little better. Like, we've seen each other a ton, and it's kind of, it was nice to talk a little bit in a more
Yes,
grounded
definitely.
way and get to hear from you and what you're doing, and love the
Yeah.
story about Tess' team. That was awesome. I didn't know, so that was fun to hear that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm hoping to see you soon. And we travel so much, I'm sure we'll cross paths again at some point.
Soon. If not, we'll see you in Chicago in May.
Most definitely. I'm looking forward. It's fun to see the facility. I'll be back again sometime in January for a site visit, really nailing down the logistics and the flow. Looking forward to, Chicago event. It should be fun.
Yeah, I love that event. I love the hotel. It was just there was so much space and room down in the lobby area. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I'm
No, it's going to
excited
be,
about that too.
we'll have that entire hotel will be, aside from, I'm sure there'll be some people there, but for the most
Right.
part, our event will be it. So it'll be real
That'd be
fun
cool.
to get, like I said, to have those moments in that community right there all together.
Yep. Awesome. I cannot wait.
Cool. Well, thanks again,
All right.
and have a great holiday season, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you. You too.